Okay, let me ask you something. Have you ever been deep into a cut, tracking every single gram of food, hitting your calorie target perfectly, but the scale just isn't moving the way it should? It's one of the most frustrating feelings, right? You're doing everything by the book, so what gives? Well, what if I told you the calorie number on the label isn't the whole story? What if some foods actually have a hidden metabolic cost that could give you a serious edge? Stick around, because we're about to break down some science that could completely change how you build your meal plan.
All right, so here's the game plan for this explainer. We're going to tackle that calorie counting mystery, we'll dive into a scientific sandwich showdown, then I'll introduce you to your body's digestion tax. After that, we'll look at the surprising results, and most importantly, we'll give you a new nutrition edge to help you crush your fitness goals. So let's just picture this for a second. You are dialed in. You've got your food scale, your tracking app is on point, and you are hitting your numbers day in, day out. But maybe your fat loss has hit a wall, or you're doing a lean bulk, and it feels like you're not getting the most out of your surplus. It's a plateau so many of us hit, and it makes you ask a really important question.
What if the type of food you eat, not just the raw number of calories, could actually change how many calories your body burns all day? You know, the idea that some foods are just structured in a way that forces your metabolism to work harder, giving you a kind of free calorie burn just by digesting them. Well, that exact question is what a group of researchers decided to put to the test.
And this brings us to a fantastic study from the journal Food and Nutrition Research. The scientists came up with a really simple but super powerful experiment to get to the bottom of this. They created a head-to-head battle, a culinary clash that I like to call the Sandwich Showdown.
So in one corner, we have the whole food champion, this hearty multi-grain bread packed with actual seeds and kernels, paired with a slice of real, legit cheddar cheese. And in the other corner, we've got the processed food contender, your classic soft white bread and a processed cheese product. I mean, at a glance, they look like two pretty similar cheese sandwiches. But the real genius of this study is how the researchers controlled everything behind the scenes.
Okay, now this is the most critical part, so listen up. The researchers made both meals isoenergetic, which is just a fancy way of saying they had the exact same number of calories. This is so important. Any difference they saw couldn't be because one meal just had more energy. But if you look a little closer, you see the details. The whole food meal had a bit more protein, 20% versus 15%, and get this, about 3 times more fiber. Keep those two details in mind. They're basically the heroes of our story.
So how in the world is it possible for two meals with the same exact calories to have a different effect on your metabolism? Well, the answer is in this powerful and honestly often overlooked process that happens every single time you eat. It's time to unlock that secret. The scientific term for it is Diet-Induced Thermogenesis, or DIT. You might also hear it called the thermic effect of food, or TEF. Put simply, it's the energy your body has to spend just to break down the food you've eaten. I mean, digesting, absorbing, and processing all those nutrients costs calories. In fact, DIT usually accounts for about 10% of your total daily energy burn. But here's the secret. Not all foods get taxed equally.
Yeah, a really great way to think about this is as a digestion tax. Every time you eat, your body collects a tax in the form of calories to process that meal. A low-tax food, one that's super easy to break down, means your body gets to keep almost all the calories. But a high-tax food? Oh yeah, your body has to burn a big chunk of those calories just to handle it, leaving you with fewer net calories in the end.
So what makes a food high tax? Well, 3 main things. First, protein. Protein has the highest digestion tax of all the macros, hands down. Your body burns like 20 to 30% of its calories just processing it. Next up is fiber. Your body has to work overtime to break down fibrous foods. And finally, just the overall structural complexity. Whole foods, with their intact cell walls and dense structures, are just plain harder for your body to take apart than processed foods that have basically been pre-digested for you in a factory. See where this is going? That whole food sandwich is a high-tax machine.
So, the stage was set. The researchers fed these two identical calorie meals to the participants, and then they carefully measured their metabolic rate for the next 6 hours. They were ready to find out if this digestion tax was for real, and if it was, how big of a difference could it really make from just one meal?
Okay, so let me ask you, based on everything we just talked about, protein, fiber, complexity, which sandwich do you think fired up the metabolism more? The whole food sandwich or the processed one? Go on, take a guess. All right, let's look at the data.
This is the actual graph from the study, and honestly, the results are stunning. See that top line? That's the whole food meal. Notice how it doesn't just create a bigger initial spike in metabolism. Look at how it stays high, hour after hour. The body was still working hard, burning extra calories long after they finished eating. The processed meal, that line on the bottom, it caused a much smaller, shorter little bump. But just how big was that gap really?
The final count on that digestion tax was just wow. The DIT for the whole food meal was almost 50% higher than for the processed meal. Let that sink in for a second. For the exact same number of calories they ate, their bodies burned nearly twice as many calories just breaking down the whole food sandwich. This isn't some tiny, insignificant difference. That is a massive metabolic advantage.
Let's put that into actual numbers. On average, digesting the whole food meal burned 137 calories. Digesting the processed meal, only 73 calories. That's a 64-calorie difference from a single sandwich. Now you might be thinking, 64 calories, big deal. But let's scale that up. If you make similar swaps for just 3 meals a day, that's almost 200 extra calories burned. Over a week, that's 1,400 calories. That is a whole extra workout's worth of energy you burned pretty much for free.
Okay, so this is where the science leaves the lab and comes right into your kitchen and your gym bag. This is not just some cool fun fact. This is a powerful tool you can use to optimize your nutrition, whether you're trying to get shredded for the summer or pack on quality muscle. Let's talk strategy.
If your goal is fat loss, this is an absolute game changer. Every single time you choose a whole food over a processed one, you are basically increasing your caloric deficit without eating less food. You're making your body work harder for its energy, which can help you smash through those stubborn plateaus. And hey, the higher fiber in these foods makes you feel fuller for longer, which just makes sticking to your diet that much easier.
But what if you're bulking? Well, here it's a bit of a trade-off. On one hand, you do get more net energy from processed foods since your body burns fewer calories digesting them. And for a true hard gainer who's struggling to get enough calories in, yeah, some easily digestible carbs can be a useful tool. But for building quality, lean muscle, whole foods are still king. They give you a much richer profile of micronutrients, vitamins, and minerals that are essential for recovery and growth. It's not just about the quantity of mass you put on, it's about the quality.
So how can you put this into practice, like today? It's easy. Start with the swaps from the study. Ditch the white bread for a hearty, seedy multigrain. Swap those individually wrapped cheese slices for a block of real cheddar or provolone. Then, just zoom out and apply that same principle everywhere. Choose steel-cut oats over instant oatmeal. Pick brown rice over white rice. Prioritize whole cuts of meat over processed deli meats. Every single swap is a win.
So at the end of the day, this research doesn't mean calories in, calories out is dead. It absolutely still matters. But it proves that the quality of those calories has a direct impact on the calories outside of that equation. So the next time you're building a meal plan, don't just ask how many calories you're eating. Ask yourself if you're making those calories work for you. If you found this breakdown helpful, do me a favor and hit that like button, subscribe for more science-based fitness tips, and let me know in the comments what your favorite high-tax food is. Thanks for watching.